episode of Past the Wire TV. Tonight we have with us Mr. Nicholas Vaccarezza. I hope I said that right, Nick. Nick is the son of Carlo Vaccarezza and is aspiring horseman himself. He's carving out his own way into the industry. He's already working on the backside. He's a passionate young man about the sport. He's got a lot to say, a lot to bring to the table, even at this young age. But before we get there, there's two things I want to share. One, I want to extend a compliment to your dad, Carlo, because I actually used to eat at Denoy in New York City, which was a restaurant before your time. But as you know, your dad owned very successful, very, very good, one of the best restaurants in New York City, which is saying something because New York City is known for its cuisine. Now, back then I was, going to the racetrack. Your dad probably was, going as a gambler and a fan. And, he accomplished something that I think is worth mentioning, because in our game, it's very, very tough to work your way into the backside and actually become a trainer if you're not born into it or really brought into it with a mentor. I don't know of anybody who, went from owning a successful restaurant to actually becoming a trainer and starting partnerships and syndicates and, going to sales and buying horses and training horses, other than your dad. And I think that's a heck of an accomplishment. I think it's noteworthy. So please pay him that compliment for me. Much admired, much respect for that. And then I got to tell you something else about, I know one of your favorite horses and actually one of my favorite horses, and that's Little Mike. Little Mike was probably the horse that put your dad on the map as an owner anyway. I mean, he's multiple grade one winner. He was my personal nemesis. At the time he was running, that's when I was betting a lot of money, okay?
Yeah.
And, the days that, big bettors really go after those big scores are like Derby Day and Breeders' Cup Day. So not to make it a long story, but it's a fun racetrack still. My wife, Blondie, loved Little Mike. Huge fan. Bettors don't bet because of fans. You know what I mean? So we're sitting there at the Kentucky. I think it was the year I'll Have Another One. He was in the turf race. So I bet a big pick 5, singling I'll Have Another. So she's asking me, who did you use? And she's looking at my program, and I would circle who I used. And in that race, I used like 4 horses. Little Mike wasn't one of them. She goes, you didn't use Little Mike? I'm like, no, he's not going to win. Joe Bravo took off him to ride Fletcher's horse. There's other speed in the race. He beat me last time. He always beats me, this horse. He's not beating me today. He's not going to win. She goes, Little Mike you left out. How do you not use Little Mike? Long story short, he wins. He cost me to pick 5. I'll Have Another wins. I'm out. Breeders' Cup. Might have been the same year or the next year, whatever.
Same year.
All right. I come home. She goes, how did you do? I said, 5 out of 6 in the pick 6. I can't believe it. She goes, which race did you miss? I missed the turf race. I singled that stupid shug horse, point of entry. I had all kinds of trouble. She goes, who won? And then I realized I'm in trouble. I said, you didn't see the race? She goes, no, who won? I'm like, who do you think? She goes, don't even tell me. You left out Little Mike again. Little Mike beat me again. So 2 big scores he beat me out of, and he's he's just one of our favorite horses. You ever get to go visit him?
Yeah, actually he lives in at Old Friends, about 20 minutes from my house here in Lexington. And
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they're good to me there. I drive in, like I own the place, and I only go see Little Mike in game on dude, and
right.
And Michael and the workers there usually come and greet me. We chat, and it's a nice time to go out there alone and just be with him and just relax, let everything off of my chest and out of my head, and just kind of it's therapeutic being with Mike.
Yeah, no, you guys have a heck of a history, and he was a heck of a racehorse. He really was. He was as game as they come. And he always fooled me because he was always able to go so fast early, and he just didn't stop. He just kept going, and usually I would see those fractions and I'd be like, I got him this time. Didn't happen.
Yeah, because he started cooking things up in Gulfstream. He won 3 stakes in a row, and they couldn't catch him on the lead. And every time he would win those grade ones, every time he would win the grade ones, he would never go off the favorite. When he won the Woodford, I think he was 12-1. When he won the Breeders' Cup, it was definitely higher odds than that, because he's coming out of the Joe Hirsch. He got basically eased in the Joe Hirsch a piece of sod out of Belmont turf hit him in the eye. He had a huge eye after the race. And Point of Entry galloped in that race, you know.
Right.
And you know, so Point of Entry was the American favorite. You know, you had St. Nicholas Abbey in there. That was kind of a underrated turf, and it was, you know, a lot of grade 1 good horses out of that race.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, no, he ran huge, and you know, he as much as I respected him, I just always thought I'd be able to get him that day because of his style. And you know, even if there was other speed, he would just outrun him and keep going, you know.
Yeah, his first time going 1.5 miles was at the Joe Hirsch. So everyone was like, all right, this is little Mike's test to see where he's going in the Breeders' Cup, because he punched his ticket to the Breeders' Cup in the million. You know, he changed leads late stretch in the million. People thought, oh, he was getting tired. That's just little Mike. Whenever he was, like, he won in the Woodford, changing leads. He just had fun doing what he was doing out there. And when he went to New York, Belmont, he run in his first Joe Hirsch. You know, just things weren't his way. The turf was soft. He got hit in the eye by the Sada turf, and just everyone threw him out in the Breeders' Cup. And Ramon did a perfect job. Dale, perfect job training him, and good team effort there on picking to go to the turf at a mile. It kind of bit us in the butt because Ramon gave us the call. He said, I'm going wherever Mike's going. We go to the mile, we take on Wise Dan, or we go to the turf. And the thing about the turf, it was downhill, which might have helped Mike go a little bit further. But Ramon lost his mount on Animal Kingdom, and Animal Kingdom gets snipped by the wire by Wise Dan. And I'm not you know, Ramon was a great rider. That I haven't seen many riders like Ramon Dominguez, and you know, our loss of him in this game might have impacted a lot. You know, a lot of these riders might not even be around if Ramon was here still cooking things up in New York.
Yeah, he was a dominant rider for a lot of years. I remember actually when he was a bug boy in Florida, he used to ride a lot of winners, and even then you could tell he had a heck of a future in the game. And it looks like have a future in this game. You know, you're trying to get into thoroughbred racing on a high level at a time that's interesting to me, because a lot of people are trying to get out of it, you know what I mean, and see the game as being in trouble, and you know, maybe not being a place you want to make a future. You know, what are your thoughts on that?
See, the thing is, if you're an outsider trying to get involved in the game, and you see, you know, all this corruptness going on, how are you going to invest in a horse? There's no confidence in that. How are you gonna bet the races? How you gonna, you know, put my life? Everything I do is to be a trainer. You know, I go to UK. I'm studying animal science, equine science actually, but I'm learning a lot of animal biology and things that I would never need to know unless I'm doing what I'm going to do. You know, I could be going to school to be a lawyer right now, but everything I do is to build the empire I'm going to have. And, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, and this sport, like any other sport, there's generations to it, just like the jockeys and trainers we've seen. And I'm the next generation.
Right.
I would chime in there and say that, I applaud you, Nick, because anytime people are kind of, getting out of the business or running away from it, it's challenging to jump in. But at the same time, that leaves an opening when people are leaving in droves. The good news is that you've grown up with it. You have a background of it. You have a passion for it. And so you're just learning every day. And that's great right now. I started exercising, galloping horses when I was 16. I moved to Southern California at 21 and became an assistant trainer at age 22. So I just enjoyed riding the horses at 16 and 18. But in my early 20s, I started, even maybe at 18, 19, I started watching other trainers, seeing how they trained. And I just always became a student of the game. And I can see it and hear it in your voice that you're the same way and you have big dreams. And so if there's anything that I can help you with, I'm definitely going to, reach out to you and let you know that if you just, even questions off the cuff, just let me know, because I was never afraid to walk up to Richard Mandel and say, hey, Richard, I got this horse. He's doing this, he's doing that. What do you think? And sometimes you just got to get outside, you know, like you said, being out at old friends. Sometimes you get clear your head and you're like, oh God, why didn't I think of that? So I applaud you for your journey that you're going to take. And I know you're going to go places. So I'm rooting for you all the way.
Thank you. And from what I take from you said, I do every time I'm at work on the backstretch, you know, I'm doing what I have to do, but also I'm there as a student. I'm an apprentice there. I'm looking at what Mandela is doing in Santa Anita. I was just in Santa Anita. I was working for Chad for 2 years. So I'm just a sponge out there, man. So, you know, I take what I want to use when I'm training, and the bad things I don't. And that's how I'm going to, you know, be unique and be a new big aspect of this game.
Do you have any?
Some of the big guys, some of the big guys right now, like Brad Cox, he's a fairly young guy. He's been doing it a while, but you know, so there are the young guys that can rise to the top, and there's no reason why you can't be the next one. But go ahead, John. You were going to say something.
Well, I was going to ask you, you know, I'm always curious about this. You know, you said that you make some trips abroad and are studying, you know, some of the training in the UK, I'm assuming, correct?
No, I actually go to the University of Kentucky.
Oh, no, but didn't you say you went overseas or
the only time I've been overseas for horse racing was actually, I'm wearing my vest right today. Dubai World Cup with Little Mike. And
okay. My mistake. Yeah, no, I was going to ask you if you noticed differences in their training over there, over here, as of yet. My mistake. I thought you had said that. But you know what attracted me to you, and why I wanted to get you on the show is I've written a couple of articles about some of the things that go on in the sport that none of us really like. You know, I've written articles about, you know, cheating and you know, trainers using different things to, you know, gain an unfair edge and skirting the rules. And you've commented on a few of the articles very passionately, and we're in agreement about something, that the more people stay quiet about this, that are on the backside and know what's going on, the longer it will continue to go on. And, you know, it bothers me in a way that in a game that should be so regulated, okay, you know, we're asking owners to put up millions of dollars. We're asking breeders to put up millions of dollars. We're asking bettors to go and bet every day to fund this sport. And yet it took indictments from the FBI to catch two guys that, all right, the cases are still pending. We don't know how they're going to turn out, but almost everybody you talk to in the game felt that those two guys were two of the targets that were doing something wrong. And it took the FBI to come in and do what our industry has just failed to do. And the thing that I don't buy is, well, you need, you know, real proof to stop somebody. And I'm like, okay, well, I get that. Okay, to criminally prosecute somebody, you need proof. But I've yet to see anybody come forward and tell me the factual reason that Jerry Hollendorfer is not allowed to train horses at Santa Anita. I've heard stories, I've heard rumors. I know they told him, listen, take your bond and get out of here. And there's never been any official statement as to why. So that just tells me that if they want to get you out, it's a privilege to be on the backside. They can tell anybody, hey, quote, you're an undesirable. We don't want you here. And you know, that just doesn't happen in these cases. And it always bothered me that it took those federal indictments and an outside agency to come in and regulate us. So I'll turn it over to you. I know you're passionate about this. What's your take on what's going on in the game as far as the corruption and the cheating and the juicing and all those terms we hate to have to use?
Well, you said it right. I mean, why do we need the FBI to bust these guys? I feel like from the start, well, right now, the setup of this game is completely wrong. I mean, this is a sport. It should be treated like the NFL, the UFC, the MLB. All those guys get tested by USADA, and there's no way around it. I mean, you get busted, you're going to get exposed on ESPN. You're going to have to be suspended, and you're going to face penalties monetarily and to your public figure. So I feel like a lot of things in this game are just swept under the rug. And, you know, I feel like the guys who do cheat and cut corners in this business, they should be exposed, and the owners should have to feel the rate of the suspension. I mean, you shouldn't be able to run a horse. Say Joe Schmo gets suspended, he shouldn't be allowed to run that horse under his assistant trainer's name and go on and win stakes. And then the public sees that. And when you're interviewing the guy that's suspended for the horse that won, who's running under his assistant trainer's name, you don't see nothing wrong with that. So I feel like the world is, everything's advancing, you know. I got to tell my dad how to change a passcode sometimes, you know. So to keep this boat from sinking, we're going to have to do some changes and fix what direction we're going in, because right now it ain't going to be around for when I hit the grave. And I'm not going to let the boat sink. You know, I'm not going to be sitting there playing my violins, watching this happen. This is what I've given my life for, you know. And like I said, I could be going to school to be a lawyer right now, but I'm learning this physiology of animal reproduction right now. So, you know, everything I do right now is the foundation of what I'm going to become. And I want the game to be at the same level it is when I'm, you know, training. And another thing is, you look at owners like owners, but these guys are the guys with the money, and they're looking to invest their money somewhere else, have some fun, win some races, maybe make a stallion, maybe sell the horse. You know, there's plenty of room to make money in this business. But those big guys who own car dealerships and things that promote wealth in the economy that's not due to horse racing, those guys that want to buy a horse aren't going to buy a horse because they know that this game has no integrity. So what we need to do now is buckle up and fix what the bigger power has over this game, because I don't think we should rely on the FBI.
Right. Huh? Well, what are your thoughts on how we do it? Are you a fan of the Horse Racing Integrity Act? You think that's going to be positive for the game or negative?
I think that racing needs a governing body. You know, the NFL has the NFL, the NBA is the NBA, the UFC is the UFC. They pay USADA to keep their sport clean, and we should do the same thing. I mean, what could when you run a horse for $1 million, what's $50 for the drug test to the owner gonna do? You know, you're putting up the money to run in the race, and you know, hey, to make everything fair, we're gonna have to pay $50 to $100, and the blood tests will all come back, and things will be fair. I mean, why should I walk into a gunfight barehanded? It's just beyond me.
And the unfortunate thing with when you're talking about the FBI coming in and doing that, you know, really, if it wasn't for the wiretaps and the phone, the text messages and stuff, they really wouldn't have caught him. And to that point, you know, how do we know? Because the stuff they were using was getting by the test. It was not getting, they weren't coming back with positive tests. So they never caught it by way of testing. That's the only downside that I see, is even though they're doing the tests, they weren't catching what these guys were using, and they did kind of bust, so to speak, some of these misbranded or mislabeled stuff, the whatever 1000. But the thing is, who knows if it's still being used, still being made? You know how these things are. It doesn't matter where something is in the world, people can find it, and if they can get it. But it really wasn't until these, you know, text message and phone calls got intercepted. And to my knowledge, they were actually going after some harness people, and then they kind of fell into the two thoroughbred guys. So that's my only worry, that this is almost, they're too good for the testing right now. And so even if we, you know, I don't have right now a solution off the top of my head, but the thing is, that's my worry, is that we can't even catch things with the testing. So you know, I think there's still these high percentage trainers that are just, you know, going right about their business, and it's really not affecting things. But I agree with you 100%. You know, it's tough when you're trying to just, you know, hay, oats, and water and run your horse, and then you're going up against the you know, the big guys. So
it's not just you can't really call them the big guys, because I know fairly a good amount of super trainers that I know are clean, and and are, they are integral to the game. But, there are super trainers that I know of and that should be busted and should not be allowed to train a horse. I mean, I feel like a trainer's license should be a privilege, and a lot of these guys are, stepping all over that.
Yeah, John and I, we did talk about that, how, there's definitely different levels of super trainers. Some just have so many horses, they can run them right at you, and, they're using the condition book to a T. So definitely, it's just, like you said, that handful of bad apples, just like there's a handful of bad cops. And then, that's a whole nother story. But, it brings down all the good trainers that are doing right by their horses and right by their owners.
You're only as strong as your weakest link. And although you have these super trainers and high percentage guys, I always say this: there are those guys that are doing the same thing, but they're under the radar. You've got those guys that win 15, 20 races a year, but 3 or 4 of them, they know they're going to win because they only cheat on those particular races. They bet, they make their scores, and they completely fly under the radar. And they're as guilty as anybody else, because you just think about it. You're running a horse against one of these guys. Nick, you're running a horse against one of these guys. Your owners are running a horse against one of these guys. They're robbing all of us. They're robbing the bettors. They're robbing the owners. They're robbing the beaters. They're robbing everybody. And it's not just the high percentage guys, because there are smart guys out there that are like, hey, you know what? I don't need to be high percentage. I can only do this a couple of times.
Well, yeah, they can control their percentages. If they have 100 horses run, they juice up 25 of them, and they're only swinging 25%. But they finish second and third. They're in the monies all of a sudden up out of nowhere. It's not just the win percentage sometimes, because you can see these guys when they run a horse and they run dead last or don't even compete. It's just a joke.
No, I agree. And one of the things I said in the last article I wrote about it is, the people that are using something like Jeff said, if you don't know what they're using and there's no test for it, it's hard to catch. We all get that. So I think that this game has enough money involved and there's enough at stake where we need a foolproof system. Okay. I think all bonds should have cameras that are monitored 24/7. I think anybody that goes in there should have business in there. And if anybody's giving anything to a horse, it should be a vet. It should come from a centralized pharmacy on the grounds. No mislabeled stuff. No mystery stuff. Force people to have to be better trainers and better horsemen as opposed to better chemists with
exactly
vets. And the only way to do that is to run a very strict, tightly regulated environment. I mean, I hate to say it, none of us really want to see the backside like that, but when there's money at stake, it is what it is. I don't see any other way to clean it up. I really don't.
There's not just money up front. There's money, out the back door as well. Because,
Absolutely.
say I buy a yearling for $1 million and then he's going to go run for 2, there's money all around. So, they got it.
I agree. Look at, I mean, let's say, there are so many ramifications to this, and you both will understand this. But let's say I go, okay, your dad's got a partnership, right? He likes to go buy horses. We go and he likes a horse for a reasonable amount of money, but $150,000, $200,000, and we buy this horse. He's a really nice horse, okay? And we run the horse. He develops nice, and we run him, and he catches some juiced up horse first time out, juiced up horse second time out, winds up breaking his heart, getting hurt, getting discouraged, never pans out. Okay. Why? Because it was an unlevel playing field. People were cheating. We bought this horse. We never know what that horse could have been. He could have been maybe a grade 1 winner turned into a stallion. We could have hit a home run. Never going to know it. Why? Because we're cheating. So you can't quantify all the damage that gets done when people do this. It's not just
collateral.
Winning this race today and cashing a bet and watching your percentage go up and everybody goes home and life is the same. The ramifications, you can't even figure out what they are going forward. And it's ruining the sport. It really is.
And then you brought up the sales. The sales aren't any cleaner than the racing side of it. You know, sometimes you go to the 2-year-old sale, you buy a horse for a decent amount of money, you send them back to Ocala, you bring them to where you're at, you let them deflate, because sometimes you got to let them deflate. You know, they're so cranked up and amped up. They're plugging the horses, a bunch of things that honestly is morally incorrect. And it kind of gets my blood hot, because the thing that got me into this sport wasn't the racing, it was the animal. So I put the animal first, and you know, it does push my buttons a little bit to see that people are treating their horses unfairly, and you know, putting not only the horses but the riders at risk as well. You know, these guys get on sometimes 10 a day, and these horses are just shockwave to train and running, you know, training on cocks, and you know, they're not sound horses, and they're going out there to train every day. It's not just the races where horses break down. And, you know, every day when a horse goes to the track, things could happen. You know, this game, you see a lot of things happen in this game. That's one thing you'll never stop learning about this game. So, you know, while I'm out there, I'm trying to learn as much as I can. And, you know, even when I step out to be a trainer, I know, you know, I'm not going to be the LeBron James of this thing overnight. I'm going to learn a lot of things in those first 5, 10, 15 years of training. So, you know, I'm sure the big guys every day learn something new, you know. So nobody's a master of this game. It's just, you know, who's got the right stuff at the right time. And I'm actually glad that the FBI did come involved and help us out, because, you know, imagine if those guys who got busted were still doing these things, man. And you know, it breaks your heart, not only the horses. You know, I got a nice horse, you got to go run against them and get the, you know, into a dog fight down to the wire with a horse that's not on the same level playing field as mine. And, you know, I feel like you were right. Horses, you can't have the heart broken after a big fight and they lose, and they know when they lose and they know when they win. So, you know, they can't have their heart broken.
Yeah, you know, the biggest conflict for me is, you know, I grew up around horse racing my whole life. I've been around it. I've been, you know, my mom was at the racetrack the day before I was born. She was at Belmont, gave birth to me, and a week later she was back at the racetrack with me in a stroller. Okay, so that's how much around the racetrack I've been. And I'm also an animal lover. I'm very active in animal rescue and stuff like that, and I do a lot of, you know, personally along those lines. And I'm so conflicted that the game that I love has people in it who don't put the animal first, you know? And I know so many people do. I get that, you know what I mean? Because people will say, oh, you know, come to the backside and, you know, you'll see how great and how much we love our horses. And that's great. A lot of us do. And it's good to show that and see that. But as someone who's involved in rescue and a true animal lover, that's not what I see. I see the one guy who's not like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I see the one horse who's getting abused. I see the one guy who's taking advantage of a horse. I see the one guy who's running that sawhorse, who's doing this, who's doing, and like I said, you're only as strong as the weakest link, you know? So all of that's got to be stopped. And I think you hit it when you said a training license is a privilege, should be treated as a privilege. Okay, you should have to honor, respect it. And if you don't, I'm of the zero tolerance opinion. Like you said, nobody should be able to run their horses under the assistant trainer's name, which is a big joke in our industry, how they do that.
It is a huge joke, because if you were to freeze, say I got 30 horses and I got suspended for 30 days, those 30 horses on my stall list should be frozen.
Right.
You know why? Because that trainer that's paying me day rate is going to, the owner, excuse me, that's paying me day rate is going to say, well, why couldn't little Mike run this weekend in that stake? Right. Well, you know, I had a positive and I got, you know, 10 days and my barn's on lockdown. That guy might take the horses away from me and go to another trainer. That's what needs to happen.
Absolutely. It's certainly gonna promote conversations between owners and trainers where they're like, hey, what's going on? I can't have this. I can't run in this race that we were pointing for. You know what I mean? When my horse is doing good because you are messing around and got caught, you know, basically. And I think that has to start happening. What's your take, Jeff?
You know, the rules that they have, I think, are if a trainer gets suspended for more than 60 days or above, then I think they do have to disperse the horses and go to different trainers. When they have these 14-day suspensions or 15 days, maybe even 30 days, then I see that they, do that as far as run them under the assistant's name, and basically it's business as usual. But it's tough, because what's going to happen is, the owners are going to move, and that's going to punish the trainer, which is a good thing. The only cases where I think it's a kind of a sticky situation is when it happens. You don't want it to happen, but if there was a barn oversight, the foreman or something happened with a medication and the horse got it inadvertently, wasn't supposed to, and in that situation, then you kind of hate to see the trainer lose horses and customers and stuff when it was kind of I understand. When we sign up, we say trainer 100% responsibility, and that's what we take on when we run the horses and we have our barn. There's the trainer insurer rule, which is 100% responsible no matter whose fault. Even if it's the veterinarian that gives a shot by mistake, it's us as the trainer. We're responsible and we have to take the hit. So that's the only reason I say that, but again, if it's a one-time thing, you usually don't get 60 days if you had a one-time violation. It's usually these cumulative things when you've had like 3 in a 12-month period or something like that, or you've had class 1, 2, or 3, they've been close together. But if you have like the horse got ace, the foreman or the groom.
Yeah, I mean, every horse is different. The metabolism, it might not get out of their system, but that excuse of the metabolism and it's just a picogram and this and that, the groom had a back patch. Come on, you got to stop making excuses for yourself. Own up to it. You might lose some owners, but that's the game. I mean, you did that and your horse came positives. There's gonna be accidents to positives, but when it's the same horse twice a year, she's winning the Breeders' Cup, and I can see through the cracks, and hopefully this game will get cleaned up.
And that's kind of what I'm saying. When you have those one time and then you kind of clean things up and say, hey, let's get organized, guys. We got to do a lot better. But I can see what you're saying, Nick, when there's like 3, 4 things start happening a lot, then you got to take a long look at it. And then that's usually when these positives kind of are more than just one. That's when it starts to add up and the days become longer, or as suspension days, that is. So that's, that's
well, I mean, like what John said, if everything was on camera, you could replay, hey, this groom gave omeprazole inside 24 hours and you got a positive for that. So, the stewards and the tracks and the state could run back those videos and say, oh, here's what happened, but the back patches, the cough medicine, all these BS excuses will be cut out from those video, from cameras in every barn, which is a great idea, John. I kudos to you for that. But like I said, the trainers need to take a little bit more responsibility. The same horse testing positive in the same year, setting track records after. It's just, there's no, you don't even get my respect for that because I know what's going on. You know what I mean?
I really think that, like I said, we have to have such a strict, regulated environment because there's so much money at stake. And I personally believe that the future of the game, the survival of the game, depends on it getting cleaned up. I don't think our game can survive. I think your career is in trouble before it starts because there's going to be no sport 10, 15 years from now if we don't realize that, hey, people care about the integrity of the game. We already have such a negative stigma. The perception of our sport is so bad. I talk to people all the time and say, oh, you're involved in horse racing? Oh, that's crooked. All those races are fixed, right? I'm like, no, they're not all fixed. And you have to try and explain that. And you're coming from like a disadvantaged position because that's the mindset that's out there, and it takes a lot to change that. And I think it takes extreme measures. Somebody said to me the other day, well, you can never stop drunk driving. I'm like, I disagree. Okay. And here's my thought. I said, sometimes you got to go to extremes, and maybe it's going to sound harsh to you, but to the mother who lost a kid to a drunk driver that did it 4 times before, it's not going to sound harsh. If it was up to me, okay, drunk driving, you blow over the limit. I don't care whether you had an accident. First offense, 25 years, no parole, minimum mandatory. Now that sounds extreme, and for 6 months, it might not make a difference. But 6 months from now, you're going to see a lot less morons driving drunk, because sometimes you got to go to extreme measures, and I think our game.
I do agree with you on that. I mean, I feel like the world's gone a bit soft. Sadly, my high school, when I was a senior, got shot up. And
I'm aware of that you were involved.
And I was there with my brother, and this kid who did it is, still breathing to this day, sees the sun, gets 3 nice meals a day, and it's all our money paying for him to live. So, yeah, I do feel like the world's gone a bit soft, and, that kid should have been fried a long time ago. But I mean, I guess innocent until proven guilty. The case hasn't been closed, and he's awaiting his trial. But, I do agree with you on the penalties of things,
Sometimes, and I get it. I'm not saying for everything. I'm not saying that, a guy gets caught smoking pot should be in that thing. But drunk driving is a good example to me, because drunk driving kills people. You know what I mean? Every day somebody gets killed. Somebody's mother, father, daughter, son gets killed because some idiot decided to drive drunk. And most of them have done it before. It's kind of like our game. Most of them, when you look at the people that kill people, they're like, oh, he's got 4 prior DUIs.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, you see, the thing is, the repercussions, I'm saying, we went to Dubai with little Mike. He had the best year of his life. We tried to run him on the poly there to get into the World Cup. That didn't work out. So be it. We put him back on the turf. A filly beats us. And then she goes to Royal Ascot and tests positive. Like six horses from the same barn tested positive that year, because they went out of Dubai and into Royal Ascot or Europe, and they got busted for it. So I hear what you're saying by the repercussions. That mother and that lost a daughter, we go across the globe to, shipping to Dubai is a risky thing, man. The horses, to stay on a plane myself 16 hours is a rough thing. A horse, much different.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've never been a fan of that ship to the desert. I've always worried about it when horses do it. I get why people do it, and I can't say that if I ever was lucky enough to have a horse good enough that I wouldn't do it, but I would be worried about it, because I think it's a grind for them. I really do.
It's not only a grind. I feel like Dubai is becoming a little bit too shady. I don't know I would need to do a little bit more research on it, but where there's good money, there's gonna be greed, and those people that are greedy are gonna want to cut corners. So if I'm gonna go to Dubai to not play at a level, an even playing field, I don't even know if I want to go to Dubai.
Yeah, no,
one of my goals in life is to go to Dubai quite frequently to run on the Dubai World Cup Carnival, but lately it hasn't been. The integrity level there has not been too great. You had the horse that passed XY Jet. He went over there, galloped, and then I'm working at Chad's barn and Palmettos, and all of a sudden, XY Jet just collapsed. I said, it's a Tuesday. They're breezing that horse. Maybe he had a heart attack after a breeze. That's a shame. Oh no, he just galloping, had a heart attack and died. I said, because I don't have a filter sometimes, because I think before I talk. So I said, oh, they killed that horse. What happened? I was right.
Yeah, we wrote an article about that. That was, unfortunate. And, I thought that I had it all figured out. And, you mentioned something about Dubai as a bettor, and I bet less now than I have in years. And I'm in a position now to bet more if I wanted to. my handle used to be $500,000 a year. It could be twice that now if I want. I bet less now because of the kind of stuff we're talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
I still love the game and I love to play and I love to go after scores, but now I'd rather do it with a little money instead of a lot of money because I don't feel like things are on the up and up.
And you're a pro at a game. Imagine a guy that his first time at the track, he's got $1,000 cash he wants to bet, but he's got one birdie in the ear saying, don't go over there and spending all your money. That stuff's corrupt over there.
Exactly.
It's not good energy the game needs. And
exactly right. And here's what really got to me a couple of years ago. When I first started scaling back because of this, I thought, you know what? I'm going to beat this at their own game. I'm only going to bet big money 6-7 days a year. Derby Day, Breeders' Cup Day, Belmont Stakes Day, Travers Day, those days, because I know those days everything's on the up and up. And lo and behold, I come to find out that no, it's no different on those days. You know what I mean? There's always something going on that shouldn't be. And I'm like, well, now I got no shot. Now what do I do?
The Breeders' Cup do a great job. They got Juan Dominguez got things on lock there, but there's still things that just naturally I don't see to be possible. You got a guy that has a horse that he was a stake horse, but as he got older, kind of lost his step. He's an allowance stake horse. Never really broke through. Then he goes to another trainer and sets a track record and wins the Breeders' Cup. So some things are just too good to be true sometimes. And it doesn't even have to be those big days, but
right.
You were saying, you like betting those big days, but it could be the big days that they go there and they get the hit, they hit the jackpot at those big days.
Right. No, and for sure. And sometimes sometimes there are reasons a horse can really turn around. Okay. And sometimes it can be dramatic. But as students of the game, there are times where we see certain things happen with horses like you're talking about, where it don't pass the smell test. It don't seem right. You've seen enough of the turnarounds that had a reason from the ones that have a nefarious reason to kind of know it just don't seem right.
It just don't make sense. So.
Yeah. It's a frustrating part of the game.
Like you said, it don't pass the smell test. And then I guess this thing works good because I smell a lot of the BS that goes down in the game. And that's why I like to voice my opinion on Facebook, because, if guys like me or you guys don't stand up for the good guys in the game, the bad guys are just going to keep taking money out of our pockets. And I'm not going to stand here and let a guy take money out of my pocket like that without doing something, so.
And that's what it is. That's what it is. That's what most people don't get. You know what I mean? When you're on the backside and you're a struggling trainer, okay, and you're fighting to make ends meet, and these guys are doing stuff like that, they're robbing you. They're
taking money out of you because you run a horse every 30, 40 days. That's depending on the trainer, could be $100, $200 a day to the owner. Right. So that's a lot of money there. And the horse's soundness level, sometimes you got a horse that, might not make it to next year. You're trying to get the best races out of him now. You're going to retire him. He's going to stud this, that, or the other. And then you got to run into a guy that is not playing fair. And, it doesn't give you the confidence to keep getting up every day at 4 a.m. and keep going to work, man. So.
No, I hear you. So who are you working for in Lexington now? What exactly are you doing at this point in your career?
So when I graduated high school, the day after graduation, I packed my car up, drove to Saratoga, worked for Chad that summer. After Saratoga meet was over in 2018, I came to the University of Kentucky for the fall semester. At the end of the fall semester, I asked, my dad, Chad, this, that. I asked, I don't know if school is for me, I'd rather go work, Palmettos and go to a school down in Florida, work at Palmettos for Chad. And Chad always has his arms open to me. And I'm forever grateful to Chad for helping me get a job with him and teaching me the things that when I ask Chad things, he'll tell me straight up, I don't know if this horse can go over a mile. And he's always there to answer my questions, and he knows I have the knowledge, the prerequisite knowledge to work at his barn, and I work in top gear for him. And so I worked for him since the fall of 18. And then I didn't go to Saratoga 19 or 20 because of COVID. Right. So when the horses got back in the fall of 19, I went back to Chad at Palmettos, and I actually got COVID like the first month everything was going down. So I was kind of asymptomatic, I had it for like 3 days, 4 days, I had I had these red eyes. I was like, why are my eyes so red every day? I'm waking up. I felt sick, I said, Chad, I can't go to school. I can't come to work. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. He said, all right, take your time. And then this COVID thing came out, and the timing, he was going back to Saratoga like the next week, and COVID, the pandemic hit. And I just don't think monetarily it was a smart idea for me to go to Saratoga. The rent's high there, COVID, everything was crazy that year. So while I'm sitting in my house on quarantine over, that summer of Corona, I started looking into getting back to UK. And by then my dad moved his string out of Florida to Keeneland. So I came up for the Derby, and I never left since.
Oh, okay. Are you working with your dad now?
Yeah. So when I came for the Derby, he had this assistant trainer, and I was, coming over here. My OCD was clicking. And I said, Dad, I started bumping heads with the assistant there, working there with him, started bumping heads. I just like to do things my way and like the right way. I was taught a very neat, orderly fashion at Chad's barn, and everything done like to the T. And, I started doing things the right way here in Kentucky. We won a couple of races, during the Keeneland fall meet. We won one in the summer meet. Actually, Keeneland had a summer meet. And then the winter came, and, Keeneland and Kentucky will be a destination in the future for racing, but right now they're just kind of preparing it. So we had to stay training at Keeneland, and they had this 5/8 poly track they keep open over the winter when it gets cold. And things started going the wrong way on that track. Our horses, luckily none of our horses broke down, but a couple horses did get lethally injured there. And my dad and his new assistant figured the best call would be, let's get out of here and just go to Santa Anita, and we'll ride out the spring, the end of the winter meet and the spring meet, and we'll go from there. So we're there now. Things were a little bit cold at the beginning there because, our foundation, you got to think December and January, the horses were here, very cold conditions, and the foundation just wasn't there. We were having to ship to Turfway Park every week to Breeze because the 5/8 track, you go 5/8, you're going to do a lap. So the horse is going to change leads 4 times. That's just that's not really what people do. So, we were kind of set back until we got to Santa Anita. We thought we were going to go there and ship and run, but we found out how unfit these horses were off of that poly track to run against horses that were training on the dirt. So we ended up moving everything there, and we're looking for a good Del Mar meet and the rest of the Santa Anita meet. Things are heating up. The horses are running better now, and things are falling into place. A lot of horses came off the farm. We got this nice horse named Militarist, half brother to Little Mike. He's by Liam's Map. He galloped at Keeneland over that July meet over the summer. Galloped, a little bit of an injury. I told my dad, we talked about it. Let's send this horse to Windstar, give him all the time he needs. And he's a really nice horse. We got a couple other prospects over there that have been there, and horses that actually last week got shipped out there. So, those horses won't run anytime soon, but 3-4 months from now, they'll be ready. And I'm looking forward to working in Santa Anita again. I spent over winter break, that whole month of January out in Santa Anita. I met Mr. Metz in person for the first time. Really nice guy. And I like the atmosphere over there. You know, I like Santa Anita. I saw the West Coast and I saw how it'd be to work there. And I said, you know what, maybe I'm not an East Coaster, you know, maybe I'll be on Santa Anita. Maybe I'll be training at Santa Anita and not, you know, the typical East Coast circuit. So it opened my eyes a little bit. You know
what I can't get used to, no matter what. It's beautiful. I love it. I love the mountains. I love the ocean. The backdrop of Santa Anita is gorgeous. You sit there, you look at those mountains, Del Mar. I can't deal with the traffic. I can't deal with the traffic when it tells me I'm 14 miles, because I was using Siri, my phone, to get everywhere. So I get off the airport, your hotel is 16 miles away. You'll be there in 2 hours and 40 minutes. That can't be right. No, it was right. I'm like, what? I don't know how they do it. You know what I mean? I'm like, I left the track. I said, look, so how far is Beverly Hills? Oh, 10 miles. Let's go to Beverly Hills for dinner. Oh, we can't. It'll take 2 hours. I'm like, what? 2 hours? It was insane.
Yeah.
Everybody likes California. They come to visit and then they want to move here. So you got all these people coming. Unfortunately,
I didn't want to move there. I couldn't wait to get out of there. Yeah, I loved it, but I just couldn't handle the traffic.
One of the few, but it's one of those things that you try to hit the traffic times at the right time. You know, when you're stuck and you have to go during those traffic times, then you got to just allow the time. But you know, if you're by yourself or with somebody in the car, you just got to like sit back, take a deep breath, and you know, not let it get to you. So that's kind of the way. The interesting thing with, you know, being in California, Santa Anita and Del Mar, and the fields are on the shorter side. You know, at Del Mar, the field size gets a little bigger. Sometimes it's hard to get certain races to go just because of the numbers, but you know, you go to Kentucky and Oakland and New York and Florida, and those fields are 12-horse fields every time. And so that can be pretty tough too, just because of the traffic and of horses in the race. And we don't have casinos. So, you know, you don't have the historic racing machines or anything like that that's helping drive the purses. But right now they're going to have some pretty good incentives coming up. They've had some at Santa Anita. They're going to have some more again at Del Mar. So I think Nick will do well with his horses because some of the ship and win bonuses that they're going to have. And by the time his horses get ready to run, they'll be coming first time from out of state. And so you get a nice little bonus for that too. So definitely,
they do accommodate. They're trying to get people there, but I feel like they've kind of dug their own grave in California with these short horse fields. I mean, the West Coast ain't a walk in the park. You know, you got to run against Baffert, Mandela, Sadler, you know, you name it. That trainer colony is thick. Although the fields might not be as big, you're running in a 6-horse field. Those horses are running. So sometimes, you know, I would rather run against in a 12-horse field. You know, you have a Todd, you got a Chad. That's sometimes I miss that, you know.
That's what a lot of people will say. They say, well, there's got to be a reason, like Asmussen and Mark Cassie's come, but he didn't stay. You know, these Todd Pletcher, there's a reason these guys with 200 plus horses in their stables don't have I think a lot of it could be the cost, but they don't mind coming out for the big races and the stakes. You know, they enjoy the races there. And then on these big days like we just had over the weekend, they boost the purses up on the allowance races to try and get as big a fields as they can for those big stake days when they have 4 or 5 stakes in the same day. But you know, for short fields, it is tough. It's very tough, especially when you get in the allowance and stakes levels. You know, the maiden claimers and your hard knocking bottom claimers, you know, those are kind of a mixed bag. But when you go into the maiden special weights, you go to the allowance and you go to the stake races, yeah, it might be a 5-horse field, but it's definitely 4 or 5 deep of who you got to get by to win.
You got 2 Bafferts, you got a Mandela and a John Sadler, and you're sitting there and you're in a 5-horse field, and you know the horse is a maiden special horse, but you know it's like we said, you know, you're going to a gunfight with unarmed, and sometimes it's just the playing field ain't really fair.
and then you throw in a Richard Baltus, a Peter Miller, a John Sheriffs, and they sneak up on you, and you're like, man, these guys are solid. So yeah, it's kind of it looks from the outside like, oh, short fields, you do well, and then you're 7-horse field, and you're running 7th out of 7 horses. What's going on here?
Right, you're hoping to run 3rd, right?
Mm-hmm. I'd rather run 3rd out of 12 than 7 out of 7.
Yeah,
I mean, exactly. I'm running a win, but if they're
and the purses are big back east, Oakland, Kentucky, Gulfstream. I mean, the purses are fantastic right now, especially New York as well. So definitely. Yeah. Well, John, how would you like to wrap up tonight? Final thoughts for today?
I'd just like to say, please send your dad that compliment, because I think that was a heck of an accomplishment that he did, going from a restaurant that I used to eat at to now having a little racing empire. I really admire that. And with you, Nick, thank you so much for your time and for coming on. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your passion. You speak from the heart. You're a straight shooter. I like that. I'm the same way, so I respect that. And I hope and I believe that there will come a point in time, like with your dad's restaurant, that you'll be winning big grade 1 steak races, and I'll be calling, hoping that you take my call and come on the show, and we can talk about it then. And I can say, I remember when you were living in Lexington,
Yeah. Well, like me, this show is gonna keep growing, and thank you for having me. My dad's not home right now. Actually, he's kind of juggling things, between the horses. He's opening his 2nd restaurant. He's got one in Boca called Frankandino's. Right. He's opening the 2nd Frankandino's in downtown Lexington. And Lexington's a good city, good vibes, and it's a younger crowd as well. It's like a 26-year-old city.
And they have drive-through betting is okay by me. Any city that has a drive-through betting window, I'm going to fit in. So I like Lexington.
There's not many of those.
No. Yeah, Lexington. What's so nice about Lexington is one of those cities like Hot Springs or Saratoga, and they just love horse racing. Exactly. So everywhere you go in the restaurants, there's horse pictures, and people know that there's racing. Some cities you go to, they don't even know there's a track 2 miles away. So
right, and there's that.
Yeah, I went to the grocery store last night. And I'm walking down past all the aisles, and I see like a racehorse. I'm like, what is that? They got a whole aisle for derby decorations. They had cutouts, these little cardboard hats, jockey silks and stuff like that. And that's what we need. We need to promote the game and get rid of that dark, eerie, corrupt vibe and bring more people into it. This game should be all about positivity and love for the animal and integrity, and just get rid of all the bad vibes out of this game, all the bad apples out of this game.
I agree. Well said.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Well said. And guys like you are the future of the sport. And as an old guy, I'm happy to step back and see guys like you coming and running with it and taking it to where it can possibly be. So I'm glad you're involved, and I appreciate your passion. I really do.
I'm gonna strive to continue to learn as much as I can on the track, in the books, everywhere I can. I'm watching these races just as much as you guys. I'm actually betting, a little bit here and there. I'm not that big of a bettor, but I'm a fan of the sport, and betting helps the sport, and an incentive to cheer on a horse on a random Gulfstream allowance, bet a few dollars. That's just, I love the game so much, and I'm going to strive to make it to the top. I know Rome wasn't built in a day. I see a lot of these guys my age go out a little bit too early. And when the day's ready, when the time's right, and the man upstairs tells me when the time is right, I will go on my own. And I plan to be one of those we call super trainers. So I appreciate you guys supporting me and my stock and having me on here. And when I am a super trainer, I'll get back on here, I guarantee.
Sounds great. Sounds great.
We appreciate it. We'll be rooting for you every step of the way, man. Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Nicholas Vaccarezza, a name that we are pretty confident you're going to hear in the thoroughbred industry for many years to come. Nothing but good things. God bless. Salute.
Thank you, John. Jeff, I'll see you when I'm back out there in Santa Anita. I can't wait for this semester to wrap up. I'm missing my horses so much. And California, listen, the traffic's bad, but I'm going there at 4:30 on 210. So, right. And I live an exit away, so it ain't that bad.
That's true.
Good deal. Looking forward to seeing you soon. And until next time, good luck at the races.
Thanks, guys.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
I love talking to you guys. An hour just.